Now, where does this lack of self-worth come from? As a segue now to tonight's discussion. We don't just wake up feeling, you know what, I don't think I can do it. This low self-esteem, this low self-confidence, this idea that I'm gonna amount to nothing, this idea that I know before I can even start this, I'm going to fail. I know that, I'm convinced of it. I can't. I'm not sold on myself. I should be my biggest cheerleader, but I'm not, I'm my biggest critic, to the point where I deflate myself. It's debilitating. I tell myself, forget it, you're nothing, you're zero, you're garbage. Don't embarrass yourself, don't even attempt, don't even try. And sometimes it's just the process that, you know what, I tried, I learned a lot about myself, even though I didn't get to the result that people are expecting. Where does that come from? And are there factors around me that are adding to that idea that, yeah, you're a zero, you're nothing, you'll never amount to anything? If so, let's identify those outside factors. And today and tomorrow, I have these very crucial discussions that I have to have. I cannot talk about injustice if I don't address the children inside of the house and the wives and the women inside of our homes. And I'm bound to upset a lot of you, and that's okay, and I'm sorry. This is not a popularity contest, it's a responsibility. A lot easier for me to answer you than it is for me to answer God. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, time and time again, in His various words, His actions, has made it very clear to us that I am obsessed with maintaining your dignity. Okay? He goes above and beyond, out of His way, to ensure that the level of respect that we have, even though I may feel like I don't deserve it, is maintained. How does He do that? He hides our faults. How does He do that? He forgives our faults. He makes us forget our sins. He makes others forget our sins. I mean, think about, for example, 10, 15 years ago, if you've ever gone through, like, those weeks and those months where, you are the subject of all the gossip inside the community, okay? Maybe, I don't know, something blasphemous happened inside of in your past. Some divorce happened, broken engagement happened, maybe you made a mistake and you were caught, I don't know, whatever the case may be. Think about 10, 15 years ago, you were the talk of town, God forbid, unfortunately. Every household is talking about you, and all you want to do is find a shovel. Is there a shovel here? Yeah. Let me dig myself a 12-foot hole and just jump into that hole. And now X amount of years later, people forget. People move on. Oh, what a beautiful portion of the verse. Beautiful portion of the verse. Like, whenever you feel like nobody has my back, nobody is there to defend me, no one is out there to sit there and support me in this. I'm alone, I'm completely isolated. Allah reminds you, surely Allah what defends those who have faith. He sees your struggle. He knows that you have no business being on the path of Islam. You have no business. Your family wasn't religious, your upbringing wasn't religious, your environment wasn't religious, you were in some local town that had no mosque, and still somehow, through the miracles of online or this or that, you somehow wear hijab, you sometimes read the Quran, you somehow, for example, are someone who believes. You wonder where does all this come from? Inna Allaha yudafi'u 'anil ladhina amanu. Allah goes, I have your back. When I have your back, وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلَ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. The moment you rely on Allah, Allah is enough for you. Enough for you. Now can you imagine now? Allah goes through all of this, to uphold our dignity, to protect our dignity, to save our dignity, to preserve our dignity, and along come you and I, and any believer, let alone our children and our wife, and we strip them of that dignity. I know God gave you this izzat, but you know what? Let me take it from you. Let me deprive you. Let me deplete you. Let me erase that izzat from you. So now not only are you affecting the child or the wife inside of you, now all of a sudden you got a problem with God. Say, whoa, I gave her that izzat. I gave him that respect. وَلِلَّهِ الْعِزَّةُ وَلِرَسُولِ وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. You come in now, who are you to come in and take everything? I've worked so hard to maintain that. Didn't you come in with one blast? And the dignity is gone. And I'm sorry, and I'm going to be very blunt with all of you. And if my phone's been blowing up since the 1st of Muharram, it's going to blow up 10 times more tonight and tomorrow. And that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. But since I've been a child in this city, I have been hearing, and rightfully so, to respect your parents. To respect your parents. Absolutely. Up and down the Quran, Allah sometimes, after He says, do not associate partners with me, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, be good to your parents. No doubt about it. That's not even a discussion. And because I'm having a discussion A, doesn't mean discussion B no longer exists. Of course not. Of course it exists. We will not get anywhere without respecting our parents. But where the imbalance happens is that while we've been talking for 30, 40 years about respecting your parents, I don't remember that many conversations about respecting your children as well. The Prophet says, just like it's necessary, yalzamu, lazama, lazmi, wajib, necessary, that a child now doesn't disrespect his parent or their parent, it's equally as important that the parent doesn't disrespect the child. We have no right that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us children, and the word I'll use is abuse them, and please understand what I'm saying to you. No parent ever wants to do that, and I'm not saying that. We're all doing our level best. But we have to be a little bit aware, conscious. We can't be, somebody who's heedless. Right? We can't be somebody who's oblivious to the fact that, I need to be a better father or a better mother. We all want our kids to be the best, and part of the reason why sometimes we're harsh with them is to pull out their potential, is to pull out the best, is for them not to have an ego, for them to be humble, to be successful. All that sometimes requires some tough love. But when the only version of love that you give is tough love, after a while, they simply don't get the lesson, and they're stuck on the tone. Here he goes again, he starts yelling and screaming. Jab bhi dekho, budda jo hai cheek raha hai, he's screaming. Jab bhi dekho, he's screaming. Meanwhile, he's saying something that's good for you. It's going to help you in 10 years. All you hear is the tone. And please, I'm going to say it a few more times because I know right now there's already some BP going high right now outside of our homes. No doubt, respect to parents is very, very important. And for decades, it's been told to us, respect your parents. And sometimes that has been taken as the parent to think, you know what, I am invincible in this house. I can say and do whatever I want. They're my subordinates. They're smaller than me physically, weaker than me physically, and in terms of the hierarchy of my home, they are the lowest on the totem pole. So I can say what I want to them, do what I want to them, right? All this idea, they're your slave, let's say from 7 to 14, as Imam Hussain says, yeah, they're your slave. It doesn't mean that you take out the whip and say, okay, let's go, grab my shoes. Psh. Why'd you get a B? Psh. We can raise our kids. We can nurture our kids. We can discipline our kids. We can show authority to our kids. We have to. We don't need to strip them of their dignity. We don't need to help them to convince themselves that you're a zero. Because later on in life, those words echo in the mind. You hear it enough by the right source, you start to believe it. Remember, and I'm talking to those parents right now who have young kids right now who are uncultivated land, as Imam Ali says. Kids right now who look at you for everything. You are their God. Before they know God, they know you. You are introduced as their razik. Thank you, mama, for doing groceries. Thank you, baba, for cooking dinner. Thank you for, for buying me this. Thank you for giving me Eid money. They think the only source of all this that I have is you. Later on, when they become aqil, they understand you're just a zariya, you're just a tool used by Allah. But before that, you're everything. And you know what else you are? You know what else I am as a father? I'm also their sanad, their criteria, their stamp. I'm the sketch artist of who they are. And I show them, this is who you are. And because I'm everything to my kids, they'll believe whatever comes from Baba. You and your spouse, even if you're a single parent, you are the sanad to them when it comes to their own self-identity. If you tell them every single morning, you're beautiful, one day they'll wake up and say, before you say it, I'm beautiful. If you tell them every single day that you'll amount to nothing, that you're useless, that you're worthless, you're a na-laik bacha, there's no worth to you. After a while, it echoes, it becomes a sanad, it becomes a criteria, it becomes a stamp, because the most important person in my life keeps telling me that I'm worthless and zero and nothing. I wish I never had you. You start to believe that. Now what ends up happening is this, and follow the example, please, okay? You tell, let's say, a 7-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, you're worthless. You're zero, you're nothing. I can't believe you're my child. Why can't you be more like your first cousin? What's the matter with you? Is that how I raised you? Why do you enjoy hurting me? Look at you, you're an embarrassment to the family. They take all those words and they put it in the bank, subconsciously. They put it in the bank subconsciously. And when you put something in the bank long enough, it gains interest. It gains interest. Now please don't message me saying, oh, I thought interest was haram. It's not my point. It's not my point. We're not talking about sood and riba and interest being haram. Just humor me, follow the example, okay? They put it subconsciously inside the bank. The bank now, what? It gains interest, and then when it comes time for them to what? To withdraw that, what was a $5 comment over 20, 25 years becomes a $50 comment. And you can buy a lot more for 50 than you can for 5. So now, when, for example, they're at their work and things are going great all of a sudden, and their boss says, you know what, I'm disappointed at this report, you could have been better. That should have been a $5 comment from the boss. It becomes a $50 comment because that's the same comment that they had when they were younger. So what do? You're right. You know what? This job isn't for me, I quit. The moment one little fight happens inside of a marriage, and now all of a sudden a spouse says to another spouse, you know what? You're just a horrible human being. Like, I don't understand. Are you, like who are you? What are you? And that becomes what? A $50 comment because it's gained interest. Later on, it rears its ugly head because subconsciously now they start to believe what the sanad, the imza, the mohr, the stamp, has told them since they were a young child. And I get it. Mom, they know what I mean. They know I love them. The smack and smooth technique after a while just becomes slap. You can't say, Idraye, Shahzada, please come here, my love. It's not gonna work like that. After a while, all they remember is, humor me, okay? What do you want your child to be in 30 years? Maulana, I want her to be a judge in a court. I want her to be, the head of cardiology at Sunnybrook. I want him to be an alim. I want, for example, I want her to run her own corporation, her own business. Now take yourself 30 years from now. And your son is an alim. Your daughter is running the cardiology department at Sunnybrook. She's a big shot. Your other daughter, mashallah, has a multi-billion-dollar corporation that she's running. Will you speak to them differently? Will you be careful with your words? Will you still tell them that you will amount to nothing? You're worthless. What are you doing? You won't see any of that. But for some reason, that same kid 27 years ago, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, you had no problem in telling them that I wish I never had you. Come on, Milan, no one talks that to the kids. Oh, you wouldn't believe the things that parents say to their kids today. And we're dealing with a totally different generation. Now you could take the road out and say, Milana, you're coddling today's generation. Milana, you're feeding into this, this idea of today's millennials, how, they're so sensitive, you can't say anything to them. And I can't believe that you, of all people, on the 5th of Muharram now, on the JCC member, is talking about all these things. These are Islamic principles, my brother and sister. I'm sorry. It's Islamic principles. Nowhere, anywhere, not in the tarbiyat, in the deen, not even in Western psychology. Either psychologies, either systems give us permission as parents to what? To strip our child of dignity. Raise them, discipline them, show them that you are the authority figure. Absolutely. Tough love is important. Take away their conveniences. Absolutely. Take a step back from them if they did something wrong. Tell them what you did here was wrong. No doubt about it. But nowhere in all of this is permission for you to strip them of their dignity. To allow them to start to believe that, you know what, mom is right, I won't amount to anything. You're helping your child do math, you keep saying, are you okay? Like, is there a brain inside your head? What's 3 times 8? What's 2 times 4? What's 2 times 4? Are you serious? It should be like this, 6? 6? Oh my God, seriously? Seriously. 4 years later, before they even start math homework, oh, I don't like math. Why? I'm not good at math. Who said you're not good at math? Who said that you're not good at math? It's been ingrained in them. The Sunnah says so. The 2 people, where do the kids go? Where do the kids go? Where is this source of comfort at 8, 9 years old? Later on, remember the interest. Later on now they become loners. They're in their room, I don't want to come down. There's guests over, it doesn't matter. He's in his room, what's he doing? He's on YouTube. Related videos. Doesn't want anything to do with anybody because after a while you get tired of hearing the fact that you're nothing. The only time my father talks to me, Moana, is when he yells at me. If he lost his keys, if the phone is not charged, if, I don't know, somebody drops some water, that's the only time I hear. Never ask me how was your day, never ask me any of that stuff, I'm sorry. And if you weren't raised like that, if I wasn't raised like that, then it doesn't give me an excuse to keep repeating that system. It doesn't. If Allah is the one that goes out of His way, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُدَافِعُ عَنِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, I go out of my way to defend the dignity of the believer, who are you and I to come and strip them of that dignity? And it's not just parents. I humbly ask my older siblings in the home as well. You equally have a role to play to uphold the dignity of your younger siblings. Sometimes, sometimes I hear about this growing up that 4 or 5 boys, this and that, and they say the rudest things. Now, at times I've scraped my knees, growing up. I don't have those scabs on my knees anymore. But I can tell you what somebody in grade 6 told me about my 2 front buck teeth. I can tell you growing up, I had all sorts of acne on my face. It's true, my face wasn't always this beautiful. There was acne, all types of acne. There was. I can tell you, from pizza face to this and that. I can tell you who said it, where they were, what the guy was wearing, and whether or not my fist could fit his face. All of that. It still echoes in my head. It's just the way we talk. They don't, they should know. We don't mean it like that. They know that we love them. This generation today needs constant validation, especially in an online world, in a virtual world where they throw themselves out there and sometimes they don't get what they're looking for. They look towards the sanad, the ones that they want the respect of. Remember, if you have young kids, they don't want anything. They want the respect of you, mom and dad.